started. We are back from closed session, and I will ask the city clerk to take the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a roll call for City Council. City Council members acting as housing successor to the Antioch Development Agency. Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Tiscarino.
I'm here.
Councilmember Ogerchuk.
I'm present.
Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe.
Here.
Mayor Wright. You do have a quorum.
Now that we've returned from closed session, I'll have turn it over to our city attorney to report out.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. The city council met in closed session this evening. There were 4 closed sessions. The first was a conference with real property negotiators. The property was the Humphreys Restaurant site. Our negotiator was the city manager. Under negotiation were price and terms. The city gave the city manager city council gave direction to the city manager. No reportable action was taken. The second item was also a conference with real property negotiators. The property was the Deerfield Fire Station. The city manager was our negotiator. Under negotiation were price and terms. The city council gave direction to the city manager. No reportable action was taken. The third item was also a real property negotiation, also with our city manager as negotiator. The property there was the city marina property, and under negotiation were price and terms. The city council gave the city manager direction for negotiating. No reportable action was taken. Finally, the city council received an update regarding the water rights BDCP water fix litigation that the city filed last month. No reportable action was taken. Direction was given to the city attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. From there, we go to regular agenda. It starts with regular agenda, then it goes to Pledge of Allegiance. If I can have Councilwoman Ogerchuk lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have some proclamations honoring California Coastal Cleanup Day on September 16, 2007, and the 19th Annual Delta Blues Festival. Are there any representatives for the Coastal Cleanup Day?
Mr. Mayor, you'll want to have a motion.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilwoman Wilson, seconded by Councilwoman Ogerchuk. Please. Cast your votes.
There are 4 affirmative votes.
Motion carried. Okay. Do I have to say motion? Oh, motion passes. So I will read this proclamation. And Nancy, are you here for the coastal cleanup? Okay. So whereas the state of California has more than 2,000 miles of varied coastline from sandy beaches to rocky shores, from productive estuaries, marshes, tidal flats, and rivers to urban areas and harbors, and whereas Antioch's creeks are an important resource of the coastal zone that connect to the coast and the ocean, the vast amount of open space that all residents value and enjoy, whereas the city of Antioch is committed to managing the creek and the river shoreline, our community, to ensure that the environmental and economic value of these aquatic habitats are sustained, and whereas Coastal Cleanup Day is a chance for residents to join people around the world in expressing their respect for our creeks, oceans, and waterways, and whereas protecting the San Joaquin River and our network of waterways is a responsibility shared by individual citizens, the business community, and public institutions, and requires year-round public awareness. And whereas the California Coastal Commission has sponsored the state's largest annual volunteer event for nearly 35 years, and this year will sponsor the statewide annual Cleanup Day on September 16th, 2017. And whereas the Delta Protection Commission's Contra Costa County chapter will host a Red Caboose site on Fulton Shipyard Road, while city staff and volunteers will host the traditional locations at the Antioch Water Park and Antioch Marina. Now, therefore, I, Sean Wright, Mayor of the City of Antioch, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 16th, 2017 as Coastal Cleanup Day in the City of Antioch, and encouraging all citizens, business, and groups to help with cleaning up the coastal and water environments for the benefit of all residents this September 12th, 2017. Ma'am?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. The City of Antioch, as you know, has participated in Coastal Cleanup Day for many, many years. And as in past years, it is a combination of efforts from our Department of Public Works and the staff there, our Recreation Department, staff and volunteers, and our Community Development Department with our Environmental Resources team. Julie has been the go-getter every year. She is boots on the ground, and I just want to share with you that our Antioch Council of Teens is actually the site captain for the Pruitt Water Park site. This is a family-friendly site. There is a lot of trash that the wind blows out from the delta that makes its way to the creeks and channels surrounding this particular neighborhood. So we invite everyone with young children. This is a great way to teach them to give back and to be engaged in their community. Just come on down to the water park Saturday morning, and we've got all the supplies. Engage with our teens and head out throughout the park and help pick up litter. And I will turn it over to Julie to talk about everything happening down on the shoreline.
And I'll say you'll have all the supplies as soon as I'm done sorting them. Yes, we have 2 days of events happening downtown. Friday, we have our 4th annual kayak-based cleanup in partnership with Delta Kayak Adventures. Excuse me, for $10, if you need to rent a kayak, you can rent a kayak and come out at 8:30 in the morning, check out our new kayak launch, and go out and pick up litter for a couple of hours out on the water with us. To do that, you need to contact me. You can do that through our city website or through by calling me directly at 925-779-7097. That information is also on the website under the Coastal Cleanup Day page. We also have on Saturday our traditional Coastal Cleanup Day efforts. Myself and R.C. Ferris from Republic Services in partnership with the Rivertown Preservation Society will be site captaining at the Antioch Marina. And then this year we are at the Fulton Shipyard Road location at the Red Caboose, the Delta Protection Commission's Contra Costa location. So they reached out in our site captaining that, which was especially important because we had a little bit of a staffing issues, and I was wondering how we were going to make it all happen. And so they just called out of the blue. It was beautiful. So we have all 3 of our regular sites. You can pre-register, or you can come and drop in at any time. At any one of the 3 sites. We're starting at 9 a.m. on Saturday.
Thank you. Is this for, who do I give this to? Okay. Can I hand this to you to take down to?
Certainly.
And
I'm
put
the
on?
lucky one.
Yes, you are.
Of course, you do wonderful work every year. We appreciate your efforts.
Reset.
This is just a little token.
Antioch
Thank you very
Marina,
much. You
Caboose,
keep up the great work.
Pruitt Park.
Bev's out with the camera. You know how much she hates litter.
I
So.
tell you. Good, thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you. Are you Delta Blues Festival as well? Well. Oh, I got to read it. So, 19th Annual Delta Blues Festival. Whereas the late David Williamson rallied together 3 local blues bands and hosted the very first Delta Blues Festival on October 23rd, 1999, with performances by David's band, the Delta Dogs, the Bluevilles Bombers, and the 24th Street Shikes. And whereas throughout the year, the festival has been a gathering place for families, residents, and musicians, providing fellowship and friendship through good times and lean times. And whereas the Delta Blues Festival has grown in size and stature, providing nationally known musical performances year-round in addition to the celebration of Waldy Plaza. And whereas the Delta Blues Festival has remained a free event for everyone because of the dedicated efforts and hard work of many, many volunteers giving their time and talent to showcase our community. And whereas today, under the leadership of Antioch resident Frank Giovanni, the spirit of the Delta Blues Festival is famous and it remains the longest-running community grassroots event in the city. Now, therefore, I, Sean Wright, Mayor of the City of Antioch, do hereby proclaim Saturday afternoon, September 16, 2017, as Delta Blues Festival Day in the City of Antioch, and encourage all citizens to visit Waldy Plaza and experience the magical moments of music and the cooperative spirit of our community on this September 12, 2017.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, there are no other words, so at this time I just want to introduce to you Frank Giovanni, and he'll explain to you how this event got its start, a little bit of the history, what you can see Saturday. We are delighted to sponsor this down at Waldy Plaza, and without further ado, Frank, take it away.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Please forgive my backside. It's not my best side, but I'd like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank the City of Antioch for getting behind the event. And this wouldn't happen without, of course, our sponsors, but we've had the same volunteer network for 15 years. Nobody in our organization gets paid a dime. And I'm going to say that again. No one in our organization gets paid a dime. It's 100% volunteer. My living room right now is full of boxes and crates. We have people that are passing out flyers. We have people that show up at 7 o'clock to make this event happen for the City of Antioch. And, we're getting internationally known for a great event. We have international artists contact us all the time. And we really feel good that our festival is alcohol free. We have a saying, free blues, no booze. And the best part about that is there's no jerks. It's a nice event. People don't get riled up, they come and they have a nice time. And to see all different cultures and ages and beliefs. Right now, there's some trying times with people's opinions on the way the country should be run. And it's nice to see that everybody will come together with a little bit of music, some food, and have a nice time. So if I could say one thing is a few years ago, the City of Antioch was going through some tough times like other cities were. And I stood up here and I asked them to support our event when they were going to withdraw. And they withdrew and told us, if we don't, it won't be good for the city. And like a stubborn person, I walked away with my head in the ground, took my lumps, but we didn't go bankrupt like San Bernardino. We didn't go bankrupt like some other cities. They did the right thing, and I want to say that publicly. And I also want to thank the city for giving us Nancy Kaiser, because she is an absolute gem. She holds us to the line, but does it fair and in a welcoming way, and we couldn't do this without you. Thank you, Nancy. So it's this Saturday. It's free to everybody. We have posters and handouts in the back. This is our 19th year. 19 years we've been doing this for free for the community. It's a wonderful event, so please come out.
Thank you, and I'll invite the entire council to come take a wonderful picture with Frank.
Cool. Oh, yeah, I need to. So, to show you how smart Nancy is, she reminded me to introduce my wife, Gail, which allows all the boxes in the living room for the festival and works her fanny off, so couldn't do it without her as well.
Oh, here, next to Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Announcements of civic and community events. Nancy Kaiser.
Good evening again, Mayor, members of the council. Nancy Kaiser, your Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here just to remind you and our listening audience that this Friday, September 15th at 6 p.m., we have our fall family campfire. This is a great fun evening of relaxation, fun, and it's a very typical campfire schedule. Songs, skits, and we end with a campfire and s'mores. We have naturalist Mike Moran from the Big Break Visitor Center joining us this Friday night. He'll be providing an interpretive program representative of the Delta and the region. So again, 6 to 8, the Antioch Community Center at our amphitheater. It's the fall family campfire, and there is no admission cost. This is free, along with the s'mores and the good times. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Overchuk?
Mills and Wills is having an ice cream social at the Commons this Friday from September 15th from 2 to 3:30. They're looking forward to seeing if they can't get more volunteers to come out and help them drive a couple hours a week. They're really in need of drivers. So if you have time, you get to pick your day and help some of the seniors out in our community. Thank you. The flyers are in the back. Thank you.
Councilwoman Wilson?
Yes, I know there's a lot going on this weekend. So this coming Saturday, September 16th at 8 p.m., there's going to be a regional race at Concha Loma Park with Brazen Racing. It's called Brazen Racing. It's called the Dragonfly Trail Racing, and this is where people from all throughout the region come and run a half marathon, a 10K, and a 5K. Please come out and support this event. I also encourage you also to go to the cleanup and other events going on. I will be competing in the 5K that morning, so please come out, support this event. It's in Antioch. A lot of people will come in, and it shines a bright light on us, so please support the event.
Just remind everyone, food trucks on Thursdays at the community center. Great food and great people. And I believe that starts, it's from 5 to 9. So make sure you go. Next up is public comments. And just as a reminder to the community, public comments these are general public comments on matters that are not related to the agenda. Bob Atlas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, and distinguished citizens. My name is Bob Atlas. I'm a battalion chief with Contra Costa County Fire Protection District, and I am your representative to the fire district for the city of Antioch. I wanted to bring to your attention exactly what has occurred in the month of July. In July, I'm sorry to report that, and this is not a good statistic, that the city of Antioch was the #1 user of services for the fire district with over 884 calls. Of those calls, 15 of those were for working structure fires, 9 of those were for vehicle fires, 14 of those were for vegetation fires, approximately 607 EMS-related calls. And unfortunately, as I said before, that makes you the #1 user of services. Also, for your information, on yesterday morning at approximately 6:45 a.m., a significant incident was reported at 3901 Lone Tree Way at the Faith Church. There was a significant exterior fire that unfortunately got into the building and did burn and do some significant damage to the church there at the time. The arson investigation unit is continuing their investigation, and at this time they only have an origin, but they do not have a cause, and they have not caught anybody yet, but they are still continuing to investigate. I'd like to bring you up to date on some information. The Fire District celebrated its 10th annual Line of Duty Death Memorial Service. It was well attended. This year's ceremony included personal stories and testimonies from the incidents that took the lives of Fire Captain Matt Burton and Fire Engineer Scott Desmond in 2007, just 10 short years ago. A major highlight of the ceremony was Scott's 11-year-old son, who spoke to the attendees about his feelings for his father. It was a very emotional experience. I believe some folks from Antioch were there as well. July was a very busy month for the fire district. Several multiple alarm fires occurred both in the wildland and residential and commercial structures. Our personnel also responded to several major wildfires that occurred across the state as part of a state task force for vegetation fires. Additionally, the district responded to several major emergency incidents, including water rescues, disentanglements, and hazardous materials spills. Although most of the major wildfires are now under control and they have returned, the worst of the fire season does lie ahead in the months of September and October, believe it or not. And also to bring to your attention, with the terrible events occurring at Hurricane Harvey and Irma, we were able to deploy 5 of our members as part of a national urban search and rescue team, and they are currently in Irma in the south right now. The Fire District continues to work very closely with our local Emergency Medical Services Authority, otherwise known as the LEMSA, to make sure that our ambulance response times are as fast as possible. Together, we've achieved a very high-performance emergency medical services system, an example for the entire country. As an example, we are required to meet our response times 90% of the time, and we are currently achieving a goal of meeting those response times 97 to 98% of the time. We've reduced the average ambulance response time by 2 to 3 minutes since we assumed control of the ambulance services contract. So that's a good news story for all of our residents. And that is what I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, good sir. Mariana Moore.
Good evening. My name is Mariana Moore. I'm the director of the Ensuring Opportunity Campaign to End Poverty in Contra Costa. I've come before you before, but it's been a while. So let me briefly remind you, the mission of Ensuring Opportunity is to bring together thought partners and leaders and residents from across all regions, sectors, political spectrum into sort of a big tent to think together creatively and with innovation about how we end poverty. So in our campaign, we work on housing issues, healthcare issues, food security, because it's all part of that same package. I wanted to sort of point out the obvious, and I see that the homelessness grand jury report is on your agenda, as is mobile home policy. And so housing is what I want to focus on tonight. There's so much happening and so much that needs to happen around making sure that everyone in your community, regardless of income, has a safe place to live. I came to Mayor Wright's, the Chamber's Homeless Task Force a couple of years ago, and so I've been involved in some of those conversations, and I really appreciate and laud the efforts that you've made to, sort of generate the conversations around homelessness. But our work is really around not just those who are homeless, but those who, like our sons and daughters, who are struggling to find a house that they can afford or apartment they can rent in the community in which they've grown up. So it really is something that touches all of us. And I want to specifically, I'm here tonight to invite you to, we're having a series of housing town halls around the country. Each of the County Board of Supervisors members is graciously co-hosting that, and we're also partnering with the Multi-Faith Action Coalition, which is a county-wide faith-based all-volunteer organization. I have some flyers here that I will leave with you and would urge you to help promote the event. We certainly hope you attend. It's on Saturday, September 23rd, so 1 week from this Saturday. It's from 10 to noon, and it's being held at the Grace Bible Fellowship, a church here in Antioch, which has been a wonderful partner. It's at 3415 Oakley Road, for those of you not familiar with it. And the idea, again, is to bring together residents from all income spectrums and political spectrums. We don't have a preset solution for housing in this part of the county. That would be inappropriate. We want to hear from you. What are your struggles? What are your ideas? Who should we be connecting with? How do we get creative together in a resource-constrained environment and really put ourselves together into this solution place of understanding what the needs are and thinking together about how to come up with solutions. So I strongly invite not only the council members and mayor to attend, but actually all of the community members in the room and listening, and please tell your friends and family. We really just want to have a community conversation. And so with that, I will close my comments, and I'm wondering whom I should give these flyers to. Thank you, sir. And hope to see you on the 23rd. Thanks so much.
Thank you. John Goodson.
Good evening. I'm John Goodson, and I live at 204 G Street. I just wanted to say thank you to several people up here. Mr. Thorpe, you came to our Rivertown Preservation Society meeting and listened to some of our issues that were important to us, and I appreciate that. Mr. Bernal, you came to our Rivertown Merchants meeting and listened to our issues and responded, and I appreciate that. I've spoken to one of your public works people who got some of the water situation situated on the planter boxes on G Street, and we've planted some of those, and that's going to make the area look nice and spruce things up. Most recently, some of the Rivertown merchants came and talked about the property crime down here, and y'all responded. We have a meeting later on this month with Chief Brooks and Mr. Bernal, and I just wanted to say I appreciate your response and appreciate your involvement. Thank you, guys.
City Council Committee, are there any more public comments? City Council Committee reports, and we'll start with Councilwoman Monica Wilson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Thorpe. So this past week before last, the Quality of Life Subcommittee met, and we met with a potential consultant and with the city manager, and we really, the conversation involved in how do we engage the community more, and how do we engage you on what are things that you are looking to and want to see in the city. So it was a really good conversation, and I'm looking forward to, when we're able to make that outreach to you, the community members. So that was it.
Councilman Tiscarino?
Yeah, no committee meetings.
Councilwoman Ogurchuk?
I didn't have any other, any committee meetings, but we all did attend the mayor's conference this last week in Oakley. So that was a nice event to get together. That was it. Thank you.
That was part of Monica's, Councilwoman Wilson's ad hoc committee, so it's the same report. And tomorrow I'll be attending the Delta Diablo board meeting on behalf of the mayor, who's in China right now. And so that's all I have. Mayor's comments. So, I see some veterans in the audience. Raise your hand if you're a veteran. Oh, look, beautiful. I forgot to raise my hand. Yes, I am what they call a post 9/11 veteran. And so yesterday was 9/11, and that was actually a few months into my time as a U.S. sailor out in the U.S. territory of Guam. I was stationed on the USS Frank Cable, and I was doing my tour of duty, and I joined the Navy because everyone said that would be the safest place you can be, and we would never go to war, and no one would ever attack us, and then 9/11 happened. And so obviously that's something we can, that is just a reminder that we shouldn't take anything for granted. We shouldn't take our democratic processes for granted. When 9/11 happened, I became more well-rounded around the rule of law and what it means for all of us, and that no one individual in this country is bigger than our democratic process. And so that's very important to understand, and I share that because I think it's always important, particularly after 9/11, to remember what it is exactly our veterans are out, our current service members and those of us who have served are out there fighting for. And it's for ideas. And so those ideas are what allow us to muster here today and have debate and discussion. And it's critically important, again, for who we are as Americans and preserving the rule of law. And so there is no greater honor for me as a veteran than to read a following proclamation that we did last week, but unfortunately, because on our end, Arnie was absent, and so he's usually the master of coordinating things, and so we didn't get a chance to talk to or get our Delta Veterans Group to come in to receive their proclamation for Delta Stand Down. So if I can have J.R. Wilson come down to the, and all the veterans, all of them come join him. We're part of Delta Veterans Group, and I will read off the proclamation. Whereas the Delta Veterans Group is a veteran service nonprofit that assists men and women who have served our nation with housing, employment, health, and education services. And whereas the Delta Veterans Group was founded in Contra Costa County in 2012 by Army veteran Gerald Jr. Wilson, Delta Veterans Group has grown to provide services to surrounding Northern California area, including Alameda, Monterey, Napa, San Joaquin, San Francisco, Solano counties. And whereas the Delta Veterans Group, in partnership with various nonprofit and county organizations, held Stand Down on the Delta on August 11th through August 14th, 2017 for homeless and or at-risk veterans. And whereas stand down is a term used in time of war in which exhausted combat units come off of the battlefield to rest and recover in a place of safety. And whereas according to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the first stand down was organized in 1988 by a group of veterans in San Diego. And whereas Stand Down on the Delta is a 4-day encampment for homeless and or at-risk veterans to come together and receive support from their communities while being provided with court and legal services, Department of Motor Vehicle Services, addiction and mental health counseling, chaplain services, clothing, food, shelter, hygiene, wellness, medical, dental, employment, and a myriad of other community services, and treating veteran participants with respect and dignity, as well as honoring our female veterans and families of veterans. Whereas Delta Veterans Group was proud to bring the first homeless and at risk of being homeless veteran stand down on the Delta of its kind to Contra Costa County in September 9 through September 11, 2015. And now, therefore, I, Sean Wright, Mayor of the City of Antioch, do hereby proclaim and recognize August 11th through 14th, 2017 as Stand Down on the Delta 2017 and encourage residents to recognize the positive impacts of this event, to assist veterans, and to express gratitude to those who have served and continue to serve. August 22nd, 2017. Thank you, veterans.
Well, none of that could have happened without the volunteer at all. So to go by some of the numbers, we had for Stand Down on the Delta 2017, we had 260 veterans and their families participate in this year's event. Over 1,150 volunteers, over 70 organizations were involved. 6,600 meals were prepared. 120 veterans received vision care. Over 50 chaplains from around the Bay Area. Thank you, United States Volunteers. 80 veterans received dental care for a cost of $40,000. 160 veterans received chiropractic care, to include even by our own mayor, Sean Wright, and Brandon. Thank you guys very much. 50 veterans went through court processing. 140 veteran men and women were given haircuts. 350 pairs of new jeans were given out to veterans donated by AT&T Pioneers. 700 tie-dye shirts were given out to veterans and their spouses. Our theme this year was Summer of Love. 1,200 photos were taken during the event and given out to veterans. 90 veterans went roller skating at Paradise Skates. Thank you, Jeff. 40 veterans, men and women, were taken on a fishing trip to the Antioch Pier. And believe it or not, the women, for the second time, 2015 and this time, caught the most fish and the biggest fish. So that's kind of a poke out there that the men, they got to step it up, because the women are kicking butt. Some of the thank yous that we would like to give out are to the Antioch VFW and the Antioch VFW Auxiliary, the Kiwanis Club of Antioch, the Contra Costa County Fairgrounds, the Antioch City Council, the Antioch Rotary, the Pittsburgh Elks, Lions International throughout Contra Costa County, Delta Fence, Far West, Sacramento Stand Down, Monterey Stand Down, East Bay Stand Down, North Bay Stand Down, E&Y Financial, AT&T Pioneers, Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley, the Veterans of Oakley, and many more organizations and volunteers. The Stand Down in Delta could not have been a success without your support. That volunteer. Without the volunteer support, this would have never been able to happen. We thank you again. Thank you. Monica actually sits on our board as well. And Lamar, thank you for your service to our country. Tony was out there from the beginning with us and supported us on a couple of our very first events to give us some credibility and stuff like that. So Tony, and then Lori, you're always reaching out into the veterans community. We absolutely appreciate that. I know you're trying to work on a couple more projects, and we'll support you on those as well. Thank you guys again. We'd like to get you down if we can get a picture.
So we're going to come on down there.
All right.
And but before we come on in, I just want to point out something that I failed to acknowledge in my remark is thank you to our first responders, because what 9/11 taught us was that military personnel don't just do it alone, but folks from our police departments, our fire departments were critical in the response to 9/11. And so thank you, and hats off to our men in uniform here locally
absolutely.
and on the home front. So thank you.
The city council members in here as well. Let's get Lamar over here. There we go. Oh, yes, and I have to thank my wife as well. Dara, thank you very much. We are about 8 months pregnant, so with the little boy, yay. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Yes. And I'll open it up to council if they'd like to make any comments.
I made comments on the last one, but the one thing that I wanted to acknowledge tonight is Mayor Wright is in China on business for the city. Tomorrow's his birthday. So we need to wish him a happy birthday. He's doing city business in China away from his family on his birthday. So a lot of kudos to him. Happy birthday, Mayor Wright.
Do y'all want to sing happy birthday for the mayor? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mayor Wright. Happy birthday to you. All right. All righty, here we go. Next, we have a presentation, disc golf, presented by our very own esteemed Nancy Kaiser, our fabulous Parks and Recs director.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. I am delighted to be here this evening to provide this presentation and sort of a status update on disc golf in Antioch. I'm familiar with disc golf. It's new to Antioch, but I must admit that this is my first individual experience planning disc golf. But in looking backwards with the history of disc golf, I was delighted to find that over the last 50 years, the creation of disc golf here as we know it and its evolution has a home in Parks and Recreation. Some of the early founders of disc golf worked as recreation leaders for their local recreation departments, went on to be staff and have careers in recreation. So this healthy activity, this fitness activity, and this fun activity has certainly been part of communities and cities for many, many years. As you know, some of us have called it frisbee golf in our time, but the sophistication of the sport has grown completely, and throughout the 70s it was formalized, and it has become quite the busy and active recreation sport throughout Northern California. This picture on this slide actually is basket number 8 in our course at Pruitt Community Park. Our story here in Antioch goes back a few years. It actually began in 2011 as the city looked towards funding the final Mello-Roos projects and turning towards the community to receive ideas and suggestions on how to spend down those last dollars in the community. And here in Antioch, in our local region, we had a number of passionate advocates that play the sport and really wanted to see this as part of their community. So they participated in this process. They went to community meetings and they provided their input. Sadly for them, disc golf was not selected as one of those final development improvement pieces. But you know what? This is a great story because they didn't give up. They could have walked away and they could have hung their heads and said, oh, darn, we're not going to have disc golf in Antioch. But they persisted. This group, as I said, is very passionate about disc golf. They know a lot about disc golf and have been playing a long, long time. So they didn't give up. They came before the Parks and Recreation Commission. They met with staff to share their story, to share their love of disc golf, and to explain how this particular sport is played and how it can become an integral part in somebody's health and recreation activity. The presentation before the Recreation and Parks Commission was caught the peak of many of the commissioners to the fact that they formed a subcommittee to go out and learn more about disc golf. They traveled to a few courses here in the region. They took it upon themselves to learn about the course and subsequently recommended that, the City Council and the City of Antioch figure out a way how to bring disc golf to our community. Staff moved forward to meet with the volunteers and again learn about disc golf and how it could work here in Antioch. And we had a lot of lively meetings. I learned about the sport, they learned about the city, and as a result, we are moving forward and opening our first disc golf course here in Antioch. This group of volunteers has, again, been tireless throughout the last few years. They've enjoyed the support of the commission as they've learned about disc golf, and we had members of our city council lend their support and really become advocates for this sport and talk about it here in Antioch. The group raised private donations, and these funds purchased the baskets, and they use this to be the basis of the design, and that's what the picture is that you see here on this particular screen. This is the course layout. Our individual volunteers designed this course and brought it to the city as a proposal for disc golf. They put in nearly 150 hours, and they continue to put in more hours to make this course a viable one for our community. And through all of this conversation, they created some really unique partnerships, not only with the city, but with the Antioch Youth Sports Complex. So these three entities have come together to bring you disc golf in our community. Again, they continue to work here. This is the tee box. So disc golf is played just like traditional golf that everyone can envision. You have a place where you start, and instead of using a club and teeing off a golf ball, you throw a disc, and you work your way to the basket. And you can see here our volunteers, as they're beginning to open the course, they are testing it and continuing to refine disc golf. Hole number 7. Look at this is one of the finer views we have here in Antioch, out at Pruitt Community Park, where the course is installed and ready for play. And as I said, this couldn't have happened without the volunteer group that is very passionate about disc golf here in this community. And at this time, I would like to give them the opportunity to share their story and their hard work in this community. We have Scott Bartleball and Bob Lyles, and they've been the champions of this particular effort. They're here with us this evening. I would like to invite them up so that they can continue sharing this story and answer any of your questions. Scott?
Hello, Council and Mayor Pro Temp. Thank you for the opportunity to come give an update on disc golf. It's been a torturous path, but we've reached a significant milestone in that we have baskets in and we have a playable course. We've got significant challenges with the vegetation in the area, but we continue to tirelessly work to clear out the course and make it much more playable. So there's a significant amount of rough area there, which presents a challenge, and we're trying to work on that, particularly to make it easier for first-time players in the area so that it has broad appeal. So we continue to work on that. So the vegetation is probably our biggest challenge and probably where we need your support going forward. And I think we've got several opportunities there when the fire break disking is done. I think we can coordinate some of that. So we will work in the future on that. I think there are many possibilities out there that we can work through, but your support will be key to making that happen, as was your support to get us to this point. We've got a work day scheduled on Saturday the 23rd. We're hoping to get a larger group out there. Thus far, the work group has been a smaller group of mostly retired folks that are out there working during the week, so it's not as accessible to other folks. But I think we're going to see a good turnout on the 23rd. By the end of October, working with Nancy, we'll have a grand opening demo day to try and get a greater cross-section of people out there and play the course with them so they can see where it's at and give them an introduction. We'll have discs that they can use, so all they have to do is show up. So it'll be very accessible from that point of view for people to get a first-time experience.
As you can see, the project doesn't stop here, that the volunteer effort and the partnership will continue. We look forward to working with this core group of volunteers. As you heard Scott say, we're going to be getting creative on how to introduce this to the greater community and bring more people involved into the volunteer aspects of this project. But the sport, the recreation and the activity and the fun and fellowship of disc golf, they are out there on a regular basis. As Scott said, they are working very, very hard to make this a fun experience. You can see the baskets when you come into Pruitt Community Park. If you stop off at the community center, if you come to Food Truck Thursdays, if you were at the water park this summer, you would see them working, but you can actually see the baskets from our parking lot. We will be, again, working with this core group of volunteers under Scott's leadership to create the demo day. We are considering a weekday demo day on a Thursday, so we can take advantage of Food Truck Thursdays, probably early October, maybe start a little bit later and reach out to Deer Valley High School. I understand from Scott that they have reached out to the Antioch Unified School District Board of Directors to make them aware of this particular improvement to the community so that we can get our teens and our younger residents involved in this activity. And then we are looking at perhaps Saturday, October 28th, to give us plenty of time to come together to create that joint marketing effort so that we can have a real layered approach of informing the community and getting them involved. And we certainly invite any questions that you might have of Scott or myself on moving forward, as he said, figuring out creative ways with this all-volunteer project to work on the vegetation. It is a natural grassland habitat that has been that way for decades, as you can say, with no improvements. This is the first improvement on the west side of Pruitt Community Park, so we'll be getting creative on how we can push through to really make this a nice amenity for the community, all because a core group of volunteers did not give up.
Questions from council? Councilmember Tiscarino.
Yeah, no questions, just a few comments. I just want to thank you for being persistent. I know that when we started this process, you started this process, I had really no idea that you were talking about this even years before, 2014. The volunteer thing is what really sold me because, during that time when you were having that conversation, we were still in the downturn of economics here with the city. We try to comply as much as we could to try to make, our city more viable for our citizens out there. But it was tough, and decisions were made at that time that it's not that we don't regret. It's just it was tough decisions to make. But you had a couple of, I will consider the entire city council at that time was really, really focused on trying to get this accomplished. It's just a matter of how we wanted to get it done. So the volunteer base was instrumental in making our decisions a lot easier. I think what you're asking for as far as support from council is to continue to advocate volunteers, try to get us out there as well. I know that I had an opportunity to go out with a couple of folks to visit some other disc golf, and I was sold once I saw those, and I felt that they would bring a great value here to the city of Antioch. So I'm glad that we were able to get it done for you. I'm glad that you're doing it and keeping it useful for our folks. I like the fact that you have some hazardous areas out there. You can't make it that easy. But you want to manicure it somewhat, and I kind of understand that. So, whatever we can do and what I can do as an individual to volunteer to help, I'll try to comply as well. But I do appreciate the work that you guys done. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Ogorchuk.
You didn't even have to look. So I'm excited that it's finally in and the course is in. I understand it's a little rough out there, so I don't know if we as a city before this opening on October 28th or whatever day that you plan on doing it, maybe we can get some help out there to help a little bit with this vegetation in this habitat area to make it a little bit nicer for those that would want to come out and play. It has to be feasible, and I understand it's pretty thistly out there. So you go out, you got to wear long pants. You can't wear shorts in this 100-degree heat. So I think that the volunteers have done a ton of work, and I'm sure the volunteers that are listed on here are the ones that put in the funds for this, the baskets, and they've done all the work. So I appreciate all your hard work that you've put into it, and so I look forward to working more as the city with the organization and see what we can do. So just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Wilson.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you and looking forward to your opening day. I still don't know a lot about disc golf, but looking forward to seeing it. Thank you.
We can play around anytime you want.
Thank you. And I'd like to put things in context. I think it's important for residents to understand that this is yet another opportunity as it relates to who we are as a city. I love in the presentation how you put there, Nancy, Antioch, the Antioch story, because our story is about recreational activity, whether it's the East Bay Regional Parks District, our trails, the mines, kayaking at the Antioch Marina, fishing at the marina. What else do we have here? The races are happening. We've got the golf course, the Antioch Community Center. We've got now the food trucks, and now we have disc golf. There's a lot of great things going on in Antioch that aren't flashy or anything like that, but certainly is about, making sure that families have an opportunity to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy our community in a meaningful way. So I like how you package this, Nancy, and I like what your organization has done for the entire community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. And in closing, I would just like to share that Antioch has become a model. The City of Concord is installing a disc golf course in their park in the same exact manner that we are. They, again, were faced with some of the same challenges that we had. They reached out to some of the communities to ask how we accomplished disc golf. And when I shared our Antioch story, they used that as a model, and they are proceeding with their own course. So it's nice to be at the forefront of trends here in Contra Costa County. Thank you for your time and your support. And we look forward to our opening day, and we'll keep you posted. Thank you, Scott.
Before you go down, can you remind me of... remember when we first met through your orientation, and you had mentioned Antioch was one of the few cities in the East Bay where we're the only city in which residents have an astronomical amount of access to public land.
That's correct. So Antioch is most fortunate that we are surrounded by open space and access to these open spaces. So more so than any other community in the East Bay, our view shed to open space and our access to our outdoor spaces is off the charts compared to other communities. I know that our older cities in the East Bay enjoy their access. It's certainly been in the media eye much longer, but it is something that we enjoy here in Antioch, and a lot of us don't realize that it's only going to grow with the partnerships and expansion of the agencies that surround us working together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I heard something. Okay, next we have consent calendar. Are there any items that need to be pulled? Seeing none, is there a motion? A motion by Councilwoman Ogerchuk, seconded by Councilwoman Monica Wilson. Cast your votes, please.
There are 4 affirmative votes.
Motion passes. Next item is public hearing, urgency ordinance of the city, urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Antioch extending a moratorium on the conversion of mobile home parks from senior only to all ages housing. I'll turn it over to our city manager. Excuse me, I'm supposed to open this up to...
Actually, just one announcement that for the benefit of the council and the public and staff, and for the record, my office received a letter in opposition from a Doug Johnson, who is with the Western Manufacturing Housing Communities Association. Copies have been made available on the dais for council and staff, and copies available at the back of the room for the public.
So just for clarity, am I opening this public hearing, or are we waiting for a presentation first?
Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, let me make a very brief presentation. First, this is a public hearing, and so the rules are a little different in terms of who can present to the council and how they do so. We do give each side 10 minutes. So if there is someone here who wishes to speak in favor of the extension of the ordinance as a broad spokesperson for the rest of the folks who feel similarly, they can have 10 minutes. They're certainly not obligated to take 10 minutes, but that is our rule. And then if there is someone here who wishes to speak against the ordinance, for instance, they are sort of the leader of those who oppose the ordinance, they may also have 10 minutes. And then we do offer a rebuttal opportunity to the proponent. Other than that, our normal rules apply. Each person is only allowed to speak once, and they are to address the city council when they speak. Briefly, council did approve this item a few meetings ago. When you approve an urgency ordinance that deals with land use and planning matters, you are only able to do so for 45 days initially. The idea is that we want to get control of an urgent situation, but that we want to revisit it shortly so that there is a little bit of breathing room, but that the agency doesn't just sit around, that it brings the issue back, and that yet there's another public hearing. Tonight the council will be considering to extend this for 22 months and 15 days. The urgency ordinance or moratorium is only allowed to be in effect for 2 years. The idea being that within 2 years, you should be able to study an issue, come up with a set of permanent regulations if that ultimately is the agency's pleasure, conduct whatever environmental review, if there is any environmental review that's applicable, and have a permanent fix in place or a permanent set of regulations in place within that 2 years. So ultimately, what is in front of you is essentially the same ordinance that you approved previously by unanimous vote. There's really nothing new in there. It's the same provisions, same prohibitions on converting from a senior facility to an all-ages facility. The difference is the council would be extending this up to that full 2-year period. And in that time, my office, working with the planning department, would study the issue. We would first go to the planning commission with a proposal, get the planning commission's input, get a recommendation, and then bring that to city council. And, at some point in the coming months. So that is my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Mayor, to help you, I have 2 groups of speaker cards. There are 5 that wish to speak in support. There are 2 that wish to speak in opposition. If Ms. Lola Buck decides to be the primary speaker or one of those members, she can so designate. On the ones that are opposed to the extension, there's Stacy Henson and Janet Stewart, and if either one of them want to do it, I'll leave those to you, and they can announce to you if they wish to be primary speakers.
Okay, so understanding all that, I will open up this public hearing. And if we have, do I pound the thing? So our public hearing is open, and if we have is it Miss LeBlanc?
Lola Buck.
Oh, Lola Buck. Oh, Lola, yes. So you will be the 10-minute speaker, correct?
You can.
Your friends are nominating you. Oh, okay.
So Al will do it.
Al, you will be our primary speaker. And I'll just emphasize that you don't have to take 10 minutes.
Not yet.
but you can take up to 10 minutes. And I believe we have a microphone for you down here.
Yeah, but you need to, before he comes up, you want to pick the,
Don't turn
yeah.
the lights on yet. I think all
You want to check amongst the two opponents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so hang
So
on.
Al, before you get
Al,
started, just
don't get started.
give me a second here. Stacy and Janet, do either of you want to be the 10-minute opponents? Are they not here? Oh, hi. Would you like to be? That's okay. It's up to 10 minutes. Up to. So you can take, a minute and a half. And so you're Stacy. You're Janice. Okay. Where's Stacy? Well, why didn't you say hi when I called your name? See, these are the when I was a teacher, I would have had you go outside and go to the principal's office. All right, so are you fine with Janet doing? Okay, are you sure about this? Okay, so Janet, you will be the bigwig opposition person, and so we will start with Al. Al Ines. Is it Ines? Ives. Al Ives.
old servicemen get travel time to the podium.
Yeah.
Mr. Clerk, if you pull down that microphone, Al will be able to reach it because we've tried this before.
Yeah, but he said the camera don't catch it, does it?
No, the camera the camera will see him.
What? Okay. I'll do it. Whatever. I won't be able to see, well, I can see you folks. Can you hear me from here? Like, oh, God darn it. Can you hear that right here? Okay. All right. Well, I guess I can start then. Can I start right now? I can't see the what do you call them? The lights, but you can holler at me when it's too late. I only prepared 3 minutes because that's all I understood I was going to get. So, can I get going with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mayor Thorpe, council members Wilson, Tiscarino, and Overchalk, city manager Bernal, and interim city attorney Cole. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Ives, and I've been a homeowner in the Vista Diablo Mobile Home Park for 23 years at the end of this month. Thank you. At the end of this month. And I just lost my place when I left. Oh, I also, 23 years. And I also serve on the Homeowners Association Board of Directors and its Action Committee. I'm here tonight to urge the council to adopt the urgency ordinance which will extend the moratorium preventing park owners from converting us to an all-age park for 23 additional months and 15 days. I would also hope that City Attorney Cole will be able to give us an idea when the permanent ordinance might be ready for the council's consideration. I'm also here tonight with some good news. Aiming to preserve affordable housing designed for senior living, the City Council of San Juan Capistrano in Southern California on August 15th approved a new zoning ordinance for age-restricted mobile home parks. The ordinance, which is based on the UCAIPA ordinance, seeks to ensure that the 4 San Joaquin mobile home parks that operate for ages 55 and older will never lift the age restriction. And that they have 7 parks down there, 4 senior and 3 all age. And 2 of the senior park owners decided they wanted to convert. Well, of course, the residents didn't like that. The homeowners didn't like that. They went to the council. The council enacted a moratorium in February, and in August they went through the whole process during that time, and they are now online, or whatever you want to call it there. It's approved. And when I spoke here on August 1st, by the way, on August 8th, I told you that California had more than 220,000 mobile home spaces. That was almost correct, but the true figure is actually more than 370,000, as reported by the ARP magazine in a 2010 article. ARP also said that there are more than 3 million spaces throughout the USA. Wow. I also hope that when park owners' reps appear before you, you ask them why there are so many refinances and so little ongoing maintenance in our parks. Just cash alone taken out of Vista Diablo since they've been owners of more than $12 million since they took over. And in closing, I know that the subsidy is over as of this month, but I would ask that you try to find some way to continue it. With the advent of rent raises of 4 to 5% every year, almost everyone will take an approximate monthly hit, including the subsidy, of more than $125 on January the 1st. And that would be a real tragedy. And we have so many people in our park that I don't think are going to be able to stay there. And we really need help on that. And again, I didn't prepare a long-winded speech like I normally do, so that's it for me. Thank you. God bless America.
Thank you, Al. There's nothing wrong with short and concise. Lola Buck. Oh, I'm sorry, Lola. I'm sorry. The opposition has to go first. So, Janet Stewart. And thank you for your patience. My normal job is just to sit here and look pretty.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and all the residents of Vista Diablo. I know that there's been a lot of passion put into all of this, and you've all felt very strongly about this. I want to explain my role here tonight. I'm here primarily as an observer. I am an employee of Sierra Corporate Management. I am an employee of Sierra Corporate Management. I am here primarily, though, as an observer. Rich Pinnell has been in touch with the mayor and the attorney, and will work with them along with the HOA throughout the coming year on all of this. I wanted to say that I'm sorry for the scare that everyone experienced over all of this. There were no plans to convert the park, to move the park from a senior to an all-age park. But now, like any property owner, we don't want to give up future rights. And we oppose because perhaps 20 years down the line, we may have different plans than for right now. So that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now do I just open it up to, okay. So now, Lola, if you would.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Parem, council members, city manager, and city attorney. My name is Lola Buck. I'm president of the HOA at Vista Diablo, and I've been a resident for 21 plus years. Our residents that are here today, please raise your hands. And we have, I'm pleased to announce that the other park, the Delta Villa, they're here as well. I'm very happy about that. Thank you for considering this and for taking care of this urgency ordinance. We really needed to do this. And the things that's been going on the last few weeks, just because they know, the park knows that we're here and we're complaining, and Lori's been there to look at the different things. They've taken care of some of the items, but we know it's temporary. A retaining wall that took 6 years to take care of. You heard Pat Honcho, the lady that has her house falling apart because they didn't take care of business. The person that was just here speaking went and took pictures, and this is the 8th manager that has taken pictures of this, of her problem, since 2011. And so we know that this is just temporary on their part as far as taking care of business, so to speak. But we still have the trees that are a fire hazard. And we realized that things were going to be changing, as we've talked to you before, about 2 to 3 years ago, when the children started arriving in the park, and taunting us, their parents taunting us that this park was going to become an all-age park in October of 2017. Now, how did they arrive at that deduction as brand new residents? So I don't believe that they had no intentions of doing this. I think they were hoping that come October 9th, 2017, we would just quietly accept this. Well, we're not going to do it. We're not going to accept it. And we appreciate everything that you guys have done to get this together for us, and we look forward to the senior overlay. Thank you, everybody, for your support.
Gil Davis.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, City Manager, City Attorney, fine music. My name is Gil Davis. My wife Shirley and I have lived in Vista Diablo Mobile Home Park since April of 2005, when we signed the lease for a residency in a senior mobile home park. We would like to thank all of you, plus Mayor Wright, for all the hard work of getting the senior overlay extension done. We sincerely hope that it does not take 2 full years for completion, so that some of the other problems such as rent adjustment or rent control can be addressed. In the meantime, is there any way to prevent the park owners from bringing in any more unqualified non-senior residents into the park? In the past couple of years, many families with children have been allowed in by the owners to move into our senior community, no doubt in their hope of obtaining more than 20% of the non-senior occupancy. This seems to be a direct violation of the agreement that was made 10 years ago. As homeowners in the park, if we break any rules, the park does not hesitate to file a notice of grievance against us. If the violation is not cleared up within an appropriate time, one of the penalties against the homeowner is a 7-day eviction notice. Are the homeowners the only ones that are required to adhere to the rules? If so, why? Are there any penalties that can be brought against the park owners, Court and Scott, for breaking the agreement? Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Thank you.
Vivian Espinosa.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Vivian Espinosa, and I'm the Secretary Treasurer of GSMOL Chapter 1461. This is the 3rd time that I have come to speak before the City Council. Thank you for the consideration for the Senior Park Overlay District Ordinance. I hope this will be the last time that I need to tell you my concerns about our park becoming an all-age park. Court and Scott have already allowed children under the age of 18 to live here. Our seniors have expressed concerns that our lifestyle will be disturbed or, if not destroyed, if multiple families and younger people living under the same roof become residents. We are experiencing this happening now. I could give you a long list, but I won't bore you with the nitty-gritty of our complaints. Some of the new residents have a total disregard for park rules and regulations. Some have moved in without cleaning up their home sites with furniture and junk. I know of a few homes in our park that are truly, I hate to say this, trailer trash, never intending to make their homes look nice. We have great managers now, and I hope then Court and Scott will allow them to remain. I do believe our new managers are trying very hard to bring our park up to what it used to be. We have multiple families living in some of the homes and have converted a 2-bedroom home, making them 3 and 4 bedrooms by adding bedrooms that are total violation of HCD standards and the California Mobile Residency Law without proper permits or approval of management. Some have made bedrooms out of their porches to accommodate multiple families under one roof and 4 and 5 cars with no place to park but in the visitors' parking. I just turned 75 years old, and believe it or not, it seems just like yesterday. I was 25, well, maybe 40. I hate to seem like a crabby old lady, but I guess I could be considered just that. I sometimes look in the mirror and wonder who's that old lady staring back at me. Please help me become a happy old lady and not have to put up with this nonsense anymore.
When you put it that way, well, I guess. Stacy Henson.
I would like to make a correction.
Oh.
Vice Mayor, if I may. I think I checked the wrong box.
You have against.
I am not against, and my residents are here. I didn't want them to kill me out back.
Oh,
so
no.
Sure
That would not be a good
I
thing.
wrap that up. So to the absence of Mayor Wright and to Vice Mayor Thorpe and to the council, thank you folks for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I speak in support of my seniors, and I come from a multi-family background. So this is the very first opportunity that I've had to actually work for an all-senior community. And having had this opportunity to work for an all-senior community, my heart goes out to them because as I look at my residents, a lot of them, and if you look at them, that's in the audience now, a lot of them have worked very hard all their lives. And so what they have, they take full support of that. They take ownership of it, and it means a lot to them. And also to know that, you know, the potential possibilities of converting an all-family community, well, converting it from a senior to an all-family is not good. And I'm going to tell you why. When you look at my seniors, a lot of them, they have a lot of conditions. And let's just face it and just be real, it is what it is, right? And the last thing any of them need is to have any of their peace and quiet disturbed, right? And they take pride in their community. And we know that if we convert that into a multifamily, it brings in various types of elements that we do not want, we do not support, and we do not want to have any part of it within our community. I am the community manager for Hometown Delta Villa. Our company is Hometown America. We're located out of Chicago. It's where our corporate office is located. So again, I apologize for checking off the wrong box. I hope that we could make that correction as of now for the records, so that would be a vote in the favor of what needs to be done as per the great desires of our seniors that are in the audience tonight. Thank you so very much.
Stephanie Wagner.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and City Council members. My name is Stephanie Wagner. Myself and a lot of my fellow neighbors live in the Delta Villa Mobile Home Estates off 18th Street. It is a beautiful and unique gated senior community where we enjoy the quietness and camaraderie of our fellow neighbors. We have many social club events in our clubhouse, from potlucks to dances to bingo and much more. In recent months, we have become aware of the plight of the homeowners living in Vista Diablo Mobile Home Estates, and we sympathize with their situation. I and other residents in my park have friends who live there, and I personally have sold homes there to clients who purchased their home with the intent of having senior neighbors, not children. Our park was purchased by a large corporation last year. They are assuring us that they want to keep us a 55-plus community. We are also aware that they could change their mind on any given day and give us a 6-month notice and convert us to a family park. We are fearful that we could be facing what the homeowners in Vista Diablo are going through. Most of us in my park have grandchildren, and we love it when they come to visit. That is the beauty of being a grandparent. Love them on a short visit and then send them home hyped up on sugar for parents to deal with. None of us want to have children or teenagers with loud cars and blaring music living next door to us. We have veterans in our community that have served this country. They, along with us, deserve to live in a peaceful environment. We want you to know that we support your work in establishing a senior overlay zoning district with you and the residents of Vista Diablo to secure our senior homes. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have an email. Am I supposed to read the email? Okay. Dear Mayor and Council members, the Western Manufactured Housing Communities Association, WMA, represents the owners and operators of mobile home parks and manufactured housing communities throughout California. Having been founded in 1945, WMA is one of the oldest, largest, and most respected nonprofit trade associations of its kind in the United States. WMA opposes the extension of the urgency moratorium on conversions of 55 and older communities to all age communities. To our knowledge, none of the city's 3 mobile home communities is contemplating such a change in status, and there is no threat to the public health, safety, and welfare. Therefore, we respectfully urge your council to vote against this urgency conversion moratorium extension. No round of applause? All right, you'll have to help me out here, Mr. Clerk. What do I do?
I have no other further requests to speak. You may close the public hearing.
I am closing the public hearing. This matter is now before council. Are there any questions? Councilmember Tiscarino?
I don't know about you, but I'm ready to make a motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I need to read the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ready to help you. I'm ready.
It is recommended that the City Council adopt the urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Antioch extending the moratorium on the conversion of mobile home parks from senior-only all-right ages housing for 22 months and 15 days.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Ogerchuk. I just want to say thank you, Janet, for showing up. I know that wasn't easy, but I hope that you'll work with us in the next 2 years as we come to some resolution. So thank you for being here, because I think there was an appetite by us to hear from your side as well. So I appreciate you for being here. That being said, please cast your votes. I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Yeah. Discussion.
Not that I don't disagree, I agree, but I want to expedite the agendized item for the permanency. I don't want to wait for the 22 months and the 15 days. I would like to get this going as quickly as we possibly can. I know that in the ordinance that you've done, thank you, Mr. Cole, it's indicated in there that you've already started working on this ordinance. And the other correction that I'd like to make, it states in this letter from Doug Johnson from the Western Manufacturing Housing Communities Association that we have 3 senior mobile home parks within the city of Antioch. We do not. We only have 2. The third one sold many years ago. So they're incorrect in their information. Thank you.
What I have, just to point something out, because I have heard, in the last meeting I heard as well about these communities seeing families with children. And so I just want to, if you can not correct me, but if you can elaborate on this, Mr. Cole. But it says here, under Section 3 of the ordinance, the proposed ordinance, where it says moratorium, it says, in order to protect the public health, safety, welfare, and pursuant to the provisions of government code, all that blah, 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 adopts a moratorium prohibiting the conversion of any mobile park currently in existence in the city from a park where at least 80% of full-time residents are individual aged 55 years of age and older. Does this mean that the only requirement a mobile park owner would have to fulfill is this 80% threshold. So that means there can be families that do not meet that requirement to at least 20%.
Yes. So the definition of a senior-only facility in federal law is that 80% of occupied units are owned by someone who is 55 or older. So that does mean that 20% of the occupied units can be all ages.
Right.
So there is somewhat of a misnomer when you say senior-only. If we go by the federal definition, which we have to because we are basically utilizing an exception to the anti-discrimination laws in federal law, technically there can be some families in a senior-only facility, but they can't exceed that 20% threshold.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Ogurchuk.
But if it's in their HOAs and their contract that it's 100% senior, that will override this 80%. Is that not correct?
Yes and no. Yes, in that if there's an enforceable contract with the HOA, then the HOA and others involved can enforce that. We, the city, don't have the ability to enforce private contractual obligations.
So I'm just going back to what Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe is saying. So we, as a city, have to go by certain rules and regulation. But what their ordinance is, what their HOAs and their contracts read are separate from what the city does. We're just doing the ordinance for the overlay and creating an ordinance. But their contracts supersede us, correct?
Correct. And a lot of the stuff you've heard tonight really are conditions that would be subject to their contract and are not really within our purview as a city. So, we're not displacing their contractual obligations. In other words, if it's 100% in their contract, by us adopting the standard that utilizes the 80% federal number, we're not somehow superseding their contract. Their contract would still apply.
Okay. So, Stacy, there seems to be some need for clarification and I'm sorry, Janet. I bet you're making clear of that. So I hope that you'll work with our community here in making sure that everyone is on the same page on that issue, because I know this has been brought up several times, and there are people who are not happy about that. Right. All right. Oh, you had a question. Okay. So we're just
not a question, but it was brought up that one of our council members wanted to expedite the process. Do I need to amend my motion to do so, or is it going to be done?
I think it's understood that the council wants us to proceed as quickly as possible, and we will do that. I think tonight the action is whether to extend the moratorium, and that's the only motion.
Yeah, I stand by my motion.
Cast your votes, please.
There are 4 affirmative votes. Motion passes.
Next item, council regular agenda, housing successor to the Antioch Development Agency. Item 4, 2016-17 consolidated annual performance evaluation report, CalPER for the projects funded with CDBG and housing successor funds. Okay, we will take a 5-minute recess.
Yeah. 8:28. sir, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Wilson?
Here.
Councilmember Tiscarino?
Here.
Councilmember Ogerchuk?
I'm present.
Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe?
Here.
Mayor Wright? We have a quorum.
Council regular agenda. Item 4, 2016-17 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for projects funded with CDBG and Housing Successor Funds. I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe and council members. This item will be presented by Community Development Director Forrest Ebbs, and he will be assisted by our CDBG housing consultant, Terry House.
Thank you. I'll be very brief here. This is an annual report that we get to present, and it provides some very interesting data on the performance of some of the projects and programs we support. So I'm going to turn this over to Terry to give you a little bit more detail, but my summation is that it's a very positive report, which means good things are happening in town.
Thank you. Yes, this is a report that we submit annually to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that funds the Community Development Block Grant Program. And so this year we were tracking 25 projects that we funded, that you funded in this past year for fiscal year 16-17. And virtually all of those met their performance objectives and exceeded them sometimes by 400%. So we had a very productive year this year. We funded a wide range of projects. Primarily, we used housing successor funds to fund all of the homeless services and outreach that we conduct through the city. And that all of those exceeded their goals or fell just slightly short of their goal, but not very much. The non-housing community development public services all exceeded their goals. Economic development did very well. And in the affordable housing, we're still waiting for the Tabora Gardens project to complete so we can report the 84 units of affordable housing that will be developed through that project. Code enforcement really went all out and exceeded their goals as well. And our grant program got on board and we were able to finish out with 14 grants there for the minor home repair grants. So it was a very positive year. I received no public comment from the advertisement that was put in the Contra Costa Times and from the notice that went to the nonprofit agencies. So everyone was pretty happy with the success of their projects this year. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions from council? Councilmember Tiscarino?
No question. I just want a quick comment. I just want to thank Terry for all the hard work and advice, particularly when we were going through the subcommittee portion of this to bring this into fruition. And I want to thank the council for approving this, and it is a positive manner for our communities and the services that are needed. So I want to see that we continue the good work. So I appreciate the input in the report. Thank you.
Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your report. And, happy to see a lot of these have either met or exceeded the goals. On the few that I see that fell short, I see under economic development, future build fell significantly short. There was a couple others I saw that fell short. What are we doing to work with these organizations to make sure they, A, meet their goals, or if they consistently don't meet their goals, what are next steps? Like, do we look into other agencies? Can you kind of talk about that process? Because we want to see all of them be successful.
Absolutely. Certainly, when an agency falls short of its goals, we definitely work with them to see, number one, are the goals realistic for the kind of a service that they are doing? And sometimes that's not the case. I believe for the one that you suggested, we may be altering their goals for this coming year. Also, we do on-site monitorings. About a third of the projects that we funded were conducted. I conducted an on-site monitoring to look at their processes and procedures. With several that were faltering, we did technical assistance. I developed different tools for them to be able to more accurately track their progress with their clients and be able to report on it more easily. We did that with Future Build and constructed a new worksheet for them that'll be able make it easier for them to be able to report on people that are actually being being employed by the jobs, not just the ones that are being trained. So yes, we're on top of it when we see variances such as that. And some there's natural variances over the course of a year. That also is the case of future build. Some years they may be training the adequate number of Antioch residents who graduate from the programs, but they may not be placed into jobs within that fiscal year. They may be placed within the next fiscal year, so it may just take a little bit longer to ramp up. So we are mindful of that as well. We keep an eye on it.
So I look forward to hearing about these ones that fell short, that they eventually are now meeting those goals. So I'm looking forward to hearing about those. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the report, and that was a great question, because I know when we went through the process, some of them that were on the list, they hadn't met their goals, and you shared with us why they hadn't met their goals and what we were doing as a city to work with them for them to attain their goals. So it was a very interesting process that we went through, very eye-opening on how they go about getting these funds and what we do as a city to help them to promote to get what they're looking for. So thank you very much.
So the only question I have is, so when the goal is 500 and then 500 served, is this the organization's goal, or is this a goal that's tied to, like, for example, our zip codes here in Antioch? Are any of these goals tied to how we're reducing homelessness specifically in the city of Antioch? Because, some of these agencies serve the entire county.
So the goals are all specific to the city of Antioch, first of all, and they are negotiated with the agency based on the amount of money that we're giving them, what seems to be a realistic goal for that amount of money, and also what we think that they're capable of. In many cases, we try to make them a little bit of a stretch goal. However, there's agencies that you really don't want to achieve their goal. That would be perhaps the Suicide Crisis Center, which we're funding next year. You really hope people aren't committing suicide and that they don't meet their goal, or the Children's Interviews Center for sexual assault cases. That's an agency where if they served no Antioch children, we would all be very happy. That means that there would be no children who are victims of sexual assault. So there are agencies that you have to look at that particular, every agency individually to understand whether that's a reasonable goal, whether it's a goal that's achievable for them and proportional to the amount of funding that they're receiving.
Right, and that's good to know. So I'm curious, when we talk about program provides 24 hours, as an example, Contra Costa County Behavioral Health Services, homeless program, adult continuum of services. So the program provides 24-hour emergency shelter and wraparound services to assist homeless persons find appropriate long-term housing. Case management, housing and benefits assistance, meals, laundry facilities, all that good stuff. The goal was 80, they served 115. These were 115 homeless individuals or folks who are nearing homelessness in the city of Antioch, who then received this service and now are no longer homeless, or they're receiving some type of benefit that keeps them away from homelessness.
The outcomes vary. So, for example, the outcome for this, the contract states that they are providing overnight shelter for them. So within that shelter opportunity is also the case management and connection to housing and services that they can take advantage of. And the statistic for all of that particular program, I believe, is that about 60% of them go on to permanent housing. That statistic was just released last week, and I don't have it committed to memory. But it's a fairly significant amount of people who are able to be connected with housing there. I don't have that statistic for the Antioch people that went through the shelter, but it is that opportunity, and the contract is only to provide them with shelter nights.
It would be nice in the future to have that, to weigh it against what the current census of homeless are in Antioch, and whether or not we're making a reasonable decline in homelessness in Antioch, because it would seem to me that would be something we would want to know, because that's a concern that I think many residents in the city of Antioch have, and I think are frustrated with us as a city council in that, sometimes it's difficult to see the fruits of our investments if we're not able to tell the story with facts and figures.
I believe there will be an upcoming report that will delve more into homelessness and the achievements of as the homeless service delivery system has been overhauled within the county, and we're getting the core teams on the ground, the care centers up and operational, the warming centers functional. We'll be able to assess how those changes are helping us to remove people that are without shelter here in the city of Antioch and being able to place them in housing. Of course, the biggest challenge to all of that is affordable housing everywhere.
Right,
Finding places to put.
Absolutely, and I look forward to that, but I want to make sure that it's weighted against this, that our investments are actually having an impact. That's the only question or comments that I had. Are there any others? Is there a motion?
No, there's no public comments received.
No public comments. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that the City Council receive and file the fiscal year 2016-17 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, Year-End Report, and any public comments received about the achievements of the programs funded with CDBG and Housing Successor Funds for housing, homeless, and community services to improve the quality of life of lower-income Antioch residents and neighborhoods.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Tiscarino. Cast your votes, please. Tiska.
There's four affirmative votes and major pass.
I'm going to call you Tiska for item number 5. Motion passes. Item number 5. Thank you, Ms. House. Introduce ordinance amending building regulations for expedited streamlined permitting procedures for electronic vehicle charging stations. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe and council members. This item will also be presented by Community Development Director Ebbs.
Thank you. The item before you tonight is in response to Assembly Bill 1236, which amended the government code. The Assembly Bill was in response to perceived delays in the issuing of permits for electrical vehicle charging stations. I can affirm that that's not a problem in Antioch. We have a very quick turnaround, but nevertheless, the state law compels us to adopt an ordinance ensuring that we will have an expedited process. So what you have before you is that ordinance. It would be embedded in our municipal code, and it would be become part of our regular workflow. And essentially what it states is that when somebody comes forth with an electric vehicle charging station building permit application, we have to give them a checklist. And if they provide everything on the checklist, we're obligated to issue the permit without delay. And that's something we routinely do, and we look forward to taking this on. And that's basically all the ordinance states. So if there are any questions, I'll take them.
Any public comment? I know the
received.
public is eager to talk about this. Oh, okay. All right, is there a motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion. The staff, the City Council introduce an ordinance adding Chapter 21 to Title 8 Building Regulations to the Antioch Municipal Code relating to expedited streamlined permitting procedures for electric vehicle charging stations.
Is there a second? Motion by Councilwoman Orchard, seconded by Councilwoman Wilson. Cast your votes, please.
There are affirmative votes.
Motion passes. Item number 6, foot of G Street parking lot gate. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Thorpe and City Council members. This item is related to the parking lot at the foot of G Street located at the north terminus on the east side. It's an 18-space parking lot, public parking lot, and it's the subject of concern of some of the downtown merchants as far as the safety of that parking lot. And so at the prompting and the request of Rick Caraher, who is the executive director of the El Campanile Theater, this item is being brought before council for some direction on what should be the future of that parking lot related to its security. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Caraher and also Reverend Brinkley of True Faith Church, who Community Baptist Church, who were part of the process of making sure that this item was vetted with the downtown folks who would be impacted by this action. And so we did meet with Mr. Caraher and one of his representatives, and we also met with Reverend Brinkley and folks from her congregation separately about this item and make sure that we understood all of the details related to it. Basically, it involves a request to close that parking lot between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. So it'd be from basically dusk to dawn in order to prohibit vehicular access to that parking lot 7 days a week. That's the request of the of Mr. Caraher and the folks who signed his petition related to the downtown merchants who signed his petition. And attachment E is all of the documentation from Mr. Caraher, including a map that shows the folks who did sign that petition. During the course of him gathering signatures, Reverend Brinkley and the folks from her congregation indicated that they were not in favor of closing that parking lot during that period of time. And so there's attachment D is a letter from her to Mr. Caraher asking that a subsequent meeting be held with all of the involved parties, which we ended up having at City Hall, which included our police chief, public works director, and our economic development program manager. And so in our fact gathering for this item, we've determined that the cost to install a gate at that location and a bollard to prohibit vehicular traffic is about $3,160, and also the cost to open and close that gate 7 days a week at 7 a.m. in the morning, open it and close it at 7 p.m. would cost approximately $12,480 per year, and that would those would both be general fund costs. The Public Works Department recently has installed some additional LED lighting down at the end of the G Street. At the end of G Street, which has helped to light that area. We had also installed a couple of years ago now some stronger lighting in that parking lot area, and in an effort to try to light that area up and discourage folks from loitering and committing crimes in that area. I also asked if the police department would write a memo regarding this issue, which is attachment F. It was drafted by Captain Aganaga, and the police department basically is not in favor of closing down the parking lot at night due to issues related to cars being locked in there and them having to respond to allow them to get out. The fact that the trend in this area is that crime is reducing, and then also a concern for officer safety in that right now officers can drive into that parking lot, and with the gate locked, the officers would need to enter that parking lot on foot in order to see what is around the back corner. So I have Public Works Director Mike Bechtold's here who can answer any Public Works questions. Chief Brooks is here if council has any questions relating to the police department. And then I know that the applicant or the person requesting Mr. Caraher is here, as well as Reverend Brinkley. So I think all the folks who have an interest in this subject are here. And what I'm looking for today is some direction from City Council, since it's not under my purview to close a public parking lot either as the city engineer or as the city manager. It's really a City Council decision. I'm looking for some direction from you all on this, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Question, public comment.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, for the record, our office this afternoon received an email from Michael Pohl, which copies have been provided to the City Council and the dais to city staff, and copies have been made available at the back of the room. And Mr. Pohl is in favor of closing the parking lot at the end of G Street from dusk to dawn.
Councilmember Tiscarino?
Yeah, I have a question regarding safety, so I think I would need the police chief to come down here. Hi, Chief.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening.
You did it right. So essentially what I'm asking is some little bit more clarification from your part regarding this letter. I understand that, in reading it and reading some of the literature out here that, you know, gating off that area doesn't necessarily stop people from entering or doing what they need to do in there. My concern is, you know, how you're going to be able to do your jobs. And if you have a call in that area, does it make sense, in your opinion, to you know, have this thing locked or open so you can do your job in a safe manner?
Well, that's kind of an open-ended question, but I'll answer it in a couple different ways. So obviously, for ease of extra patrol, which our downtown merchants have asked for over the past few weeks, it's easier for an officer to access that parking lot in a vehicle. The patrol vehicle offers a sense of cover in case something were to happen there. It also provides additional tools for the officer, part of which is additional lighting. So if an officer goes in during darkness hours, he or she would be equipped with a flashlight, but in a vehicle we have takedown lights, we have spotlights on the side. We can illuminate the area a lot more in a vehicle than we can if we were to walk in there. Obviously, if it's locked, we do have the ability to unlock the gate, obviously. So we would have a key, but the officer to get out of a vehicle and unlock that gate puts them at a disadvantage, especially if he or she is by him or herself. Their attention would be focused on the locking mechanism and opening the gate to try and get a vehicle in there, or they're going to walk in there and not have that cover or additional lighting equipment for them. It's a relatively small area. It's dark, but you are correct in the fact that a person does not need a vehicle to go back there and commit a crime. Criminal activity can actually occur back there, even by someone on foot. And I think it's important to remember we're talking about the downtown area, which does have a larger homeless population. And one of the unintended consequences of gating this might be providing homeless people who are on foot, who don't have vehicles, an opportunity to go to a place where they know there's not going to be any additional vehicles, including police patrols, and that may increase the likelihood of homeless type crimes in that back area if you provide them with that shelter of locking that parking lot down.
So I am very torn on this particular issue, because you have quite a few of the merchants and the business owners that want to see this area closed off during a certain period of time. I understand that, and I appreciate that. I just don't know if, from a police perspective, that it would be feasible or not. That's why I'm asking, you know, these questions. What is the police department's intent to mitigate the crime or potential crimes or you know, just the obstruction out there?
Well, and I'll add a couple things. So if we block off that parking lot, then there are other parking lots in this general vicinity that could have the same type of problems. We have the Palms lot right across the street, which is part of Waldy Plaza, and then there's also a parking lot just to the west of that, which could have the same effect. That, you know, the request could be later that we start blocking off, you know, the Palms lot, or maybe we block off the other parking lot of Waldy Plaza, and it's just not necessarily a solution, I think, at this point. I don't think that any of those parking lots are unique in the sense that, you know, the parking lots provide access to people to kind of get off the roadway, and if they want to park in their car, some people may be out there just to look at the river, and people may see that and suspect that there's illegal activity occurring where maybe there's not. Maybe it's the type of person who's at, you know, parked there, their appearance. From a police standpoint, we do provide extra patrol, allowing the officers to access those parking lots with a vehicle. Makes it more efficient for us to get in there to actually see, again, illuminate the area during the darkness hours.
Okay, thank you. I do actually have one more question for Mike. Yeah. I think you're going to be the money guy, right? No, I do understand that the church is in opposition because they possibly may need access to the parking lot at certain times. So I can understand that reasoning. If there's is there a different cost factor by making or closing up the gates a little bit later in the evening? Because I know that you're probably trying to figure out schedules within your crews, and
If it was later in the evening, I don't see that that would change the cost structure.
it'll be about the same then?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless there are any other questions? No? Okay. John Goodson? Rick wants to go first. Am I not the mayor pro tem tonight?
Mr. Mayor
Rick.
Pro Tem, I apologize, but I'm anticipating for the last 3 years making this presentation. And so I'm glad to do it. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on his toes.
Oh,
or
I'm
yours.
only kidding. I'm only kidding.
It has been about 3 years since we started this. I have been a business owner, manager, et cetera, downtown for 31 years now. So since Leo Fontana moved out of town, I think I'm the longest running business person in the downtown area now. I'm so glad to have so many of the newer businesses come tonight because they're stepping up early, and I appreciate that. We're only talking about 18 parking spaces. I understand that. I didn't think that the first thing that I should do would be to question some of the comments from the people before me because I didn't expect to hear them yet. I kind of question a little bit about, I understand the need for safety on the part of the officers. I'm asking you to consider the people who walk downtown at night after an event at the theater and have to walk into that parking lot without a car, without a gun, or a flashlight. Now, I'm concerned about the officers who have to go in, and that's a great thing, that they can be there to do that. But we are trying to protect people who are innocent from having to be brought into crime. The other thing is this is not the only time a city parking lot has been asked to be closed. James Donlin is closed at night. And I'm not sure I know what's different here. Now, the difference between this lot and the Palms and the others, this lot cannot be seen from the street. All the others can, and there's lots of lighting, and we appreciate all of that. But this just presents itself as an opportunity for the bad guys to be bad somewhere. And so after all these years, we're saying we've had enough. El Campanile Theater spent $10,000 a year securing that parking lot and the 2 City Hall parking lots because the city came to me and said, hey, we can't guarantee all the support you need for the hours you need it. So we now hire security, 1 to 2 officers for every event that we do. And if some other merchants wanted to have us be involved with them, they benefit. Everybody benefits when the theater does this. But we are doing something. We have stepped up forward, but we can't afford to have people there on non-show nights. But crime goes on. One last thing that I do need to dispute, and it did say that, while crime is down, I think reported crime is down. You talk to these people, they're like anybody else. Well, we didn't call this time because we've called 10 times, and by the time the response is there, there's nothing to be done. So it gets a little disheartening. The other thing was that it mentioned that there had been no major crimes, including assaults or rapes. In March of this year, is that the end or is that my 30-second? Here's my wrap.
Your last.
Here's my wrap. We did have a rape that was reported to me by the sheriff's department because they came to us and asked for video. Now, I said, why isn't this Antioch PD? And they said, it's because the crime started in Oakley and ended up there. And I'm disappointed, but I've already reported this to the police. So they're still not being involved in their conversations, but there has been serious crime. I'm not a guy who likes to push serious crime in downtown. I want people to feel safe here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
John Goodson.
Thank you. I'm John Goodson. I live between 2nd and 3rd Streets on G Street, so I have a view from my window of the entrance to that parking lot. And I do watch, it looks like a parade going through there. There are cars going through there all day. going into the parking lot, spending 2-3 minutes, and then driving out, which, I mean, I've seen this before. This is some kind of illicit activity that's going on. I do respect Chief Brooks's comments and understand where they're coming from. I am in favor of closing that parking lot as well at dusk time, because these things are going on. To be to speak on that further, I would prefer. I have not been involved in the conversations or the meetings up to now on this issue, but I'm a little unclear as to why these illicit activities aren't being addressed as opposed to having to close the parking lot, because if the activities are addressed, there's no need to close the parking lot. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but I have not been involved, so I may not be in a place to speak on that. I am in favor of closing it, and thank you for your time.
Josie Monahan.
I'm Josie Monahan, CEO and founder of East County Veteran Support Services. We have the business right on the corner of G Street and 2nd, which is in front of the parking lot. It is not only being used for illicit activities, as he said, in plain sight, in plain view during the day. So I can imagine what's going on in the evening. And I do understand the concerns of law enforcement being safe and not having, and being on foot and not being protected. But this is the only solution that has been brought up. So I applaud you for doing something for the merchants in downtown. I've been downtown with business for 6 years now. And we do what we can to stay safe. We carry tasers. We walk out with people, so we're not going alone, you know, because there are people that come out at night when it's really dark. In the winter, it gets really bad. So we always have to be aware of our surroundings. Now, if our staff and volunteers park in that back lot and it's dark, we don't feel that they're safe walking out there, because we know that there's cars out there. We know that there's a lot of things going on. I've witnessed it. I've seen it. When I pull in during the day to go park, I see cars lined up, going to another vehicle and approaching the vehicle and then leaving. You know, I don't want to say what they're doing or you know, guess, but, you know, it's kind of obvious. So if these things are going on during the day, I can't imagine what's going on at night. And I do understand that it would be a place, because then they're under the cover of darkness and they can really be in there. But who's to say that they're not doing that now? How many patrol cars go down there at night? How many of them take that route? You know, when they go to work, when they come off shift, it's really easy to just, you know, drive by, come out, you know, and then go down, and then if there's anything going on, at least you have a visual of what's happening. Because this is the only solution that has been brought to the group of merchants, that's why I am for it. If there's another solution that can come up that's better, that would benefit everybody involved, the church, law enforcement, the community, all of the citizens here, the merchants, then we'll talk about that as well. But because this is the only thing that I can see of as of right now, I'm all for it, because it's for the safety of all of us, especially when it's night, dark at night, you know, and we have to leave. Thank you for listening.
Pastor Brinkley.
Good evening. I want to bring my notes because I'm a preacher and I'll get long. I wanted to start off by saying that many of the comments that are brought forth tonight are talking about the quality of life that we all enjoy as residents of Antioch in the open space and the recreation offerings that we have that are brought forth tonight for the enjoyment of the city. One of the reasons that we selected as a church that particular building, although as you know there were many open spaces as there are now that we could have selected up and down West 2nd Street. However, that building, that particular address, is the only one that opens out to that parking lot directly. And so our interest in that was that we understood that there were some challenges in the city. However, our positioning there was to act as partners with the city and act as partners with the then police chief and the current police chief. We've had meetings, and we definitely trust in the estimation of the police department around where they need to be and at what time. And our bigger thing that we wanted to bring out is that our concern around trying to close that small parking lot when there are certainly adjacent ones that address the same issue is that it feels to us as an effort to privatize that small parking lot in terms of other merchant use, and we respect that. We are part of the community that wants to see the waterfront community be elevated and be a go-to location. And we feel that as a part of the faith community that we contribute to making this a go-to, a destination location, along with the offerings, the barbershops, and other things like that. And so our pushback around that is that we don't want to see that be an effort, for one thing, to criminalize the homelessness in this area. We want to be partners to find solutions. Our thing is on a one-on-one basis. We've been able to open the back door and partner with some people who were previously sleeping out there and get them off of that street. Not lock it, because what we know is 90% of the traffic that comes back there is on foot. Is nothing to do, and so we don't see the benefit of locking out vehicles when that's not really the primary source of the traffic that we see going there. We do respect the safety of all the merchants who are in the area as well as us. We have night service, and we open the back doors and have to be able to access that. Is it our only, if there was something that happened in the front door, it is our means of egress, and it also makes it an unsafe situation for us if we don't have the opportunity of having the support of the police who can just come through the parking lot and make sure that we're safe when we're having something at night.
Your final thoughts, please.
My final thoughts, thank you, is that we want to be a part of the multi-faith action that is partnering with the city and not criminalizing those who would like to use the parking lot. Thank you.
Next speaker is an unfamiliar face to the city of Antioch, our former city manager, Mike Ramsey. I was being sarcastic about the unfamiliar faces.
Thank you. It feels different being on this side of the lectern up here. I was thinking back to 1996. My wife Carol and I moved to Antioch. And at that point in time, the downtown was not a thriving merchant area. It had more, I think, vacancies than it had occupancies back at that point in time. And so the merchants in the city, we got together and we began to talk about what could be done to reinvigorate the downtown. And at the same time, there was a theater that was sitting unused, and it was deteriorating over time. And so the plan was to buy the theater, and the community and the city council joined together along with the merchants and saved a wonderful, wonderful performing arts theater. Since that time, it has really become an anchor for reinvigorating the downtown. There are in the neighborhood of 40 to 45,000 visitors to that theater during the year. A lot of money has been spent with the benefit of the city's support in doing that as well. A lot of volunteers, a lot of folks in the community donate to the theater. The one thing that we have not been able to get a handle on is that perception, the same perception I heard when I came here in '96 and found that most of the residents of Antioch, the majority, had never gone north of Highway 4, had not visited the downtown. I couldn't believe that when I first heard it, and so I did some surveying and found that was true. And the reason they don't is the perception that the downtown is unsafe. This particular lot is the only location that we hear from those folks who come to the theater for events. It's the only location where we're getting complaints about what people perceive is going on in the lot. They're looking into vehicles that are back there with people in them. I can't describe the behaviors they've seen in those vehicles, but you've probably seen them as well. There are folks on foot. It's just a perception and feeling that it's unsafe, particularly in the evening hours. So we thought perhaps we could do a trial for a year and close it off from 7 to 7, increase patrols a bit more, and see if that addresses the problem, because nothing else we've come up with yet does. And that's our request tonight, is to do that. I started my public service, 32 years of it, as a police officer, and I can easily identify with what the chief is saying tonight. No, it's not comfortable to walk into a dark area with nothing but a flashlight. It is much more comfortable to have that vehicle with the lights. And perhaps there's a way to accommodate that and to improve upon that. But chaining it off or gating it off on a trial basis would allow us to make some progress, we think. Thank you.
Okay, so I think what we're being asked here is not necessarily to limit our discussion to just this idea of the lock gate, but to explore other opportunities or options that may exist to resolve this issue. One thing that I didn't necessarily, and maybe the chief or you, Ron, can talk a little about what is it that, because I hear crime, I've heard perception, I haven't necessarily heard what is happening in this parking lot that it would be required to be closed. Other than, I guess, Pastor Brinkley mentioned that maybe there's loitering going on with 90% of folks who go back there are on foot. I'm not clear as to what is happening back there.
So included in the staff report were some of the stats that we have for the past, I believe, 3 years. The full year of 2015, the full year of 2016, and then through May 15th of 2017, which was when these stats were originally pulled. Through that time, there has been 58 calls for service that have been directed to that parking lot this year, which is a decreasing trend compared to years past, where there were 100 and I believe it's 53 in 2015 and 196 calls for service in 2016. I will completely agree with Mr. Kerher in that I can only speak about crimes or suspicious activity that is reported to us. To my knowledge, I do not believe, based on the stats that I have here, that any of the people who have been leaving the Campanile or the merchants have been a victim of an assault. I have no reports of an assault occurring in that parking lot this year. So if someone has been assaulted, it has not been reported to the police department. So I can't speak to that. I can only speak to what has been directed to us, which has been mostly officer-generated activity. The majority of the calls for service, the 58 calls for service that have occurred this year, the majority of those have actually been officers who have been who have gone down to that parking lot to do extra patrol and who spotted something and they investigated it. And it ended anywhere from a suspicious circumstance to a disturbance. We've had a couple of service to citizens. We had one narcotics-related call this year, a parking complaint. We have a couple calls closed on extra patrol, an outside assist, one theft-related call. So those are the things that I have available to me to provide to you as far as, from a law enforcement standpoint, documented what we have responded to there this year.
On your, I'm sorry, Councilman Wilson?
Did you have another question?
I did have. So on your stats here, like when it says SUSC, is that like suspicious activity?
Suspicious circumstance.
Suspicious circumstance. So that means 45 of these suspicious circumstance, a officer went out there to respond to a call.
In 2015.
In 2015.
Yes, sir.
And it was because someone called and said, I see suspicious activity.
No, not necessarily.
No, or there could have been an officer who was patrolling the area and he saw something, or he saw something, went out there, and it looked suspicious to them.
And they closed it. So when we...
but it may have not been a crime that was committed.
That is correct.
That's all I'm trying to get to.
That is correct.
There actual crime going on here, or is it just a perception of crime, as Mike Ramsey was talking about? And I think we need to weigh those options as we discuss any investment as it relates to whether or not there's real crime or there is this perceived notion of crime.
Well, again, I can only respond to what's reported here. Some of the crimes that I see here.
So no, I'm not asking you to respond to that. I'm adding to your point. I'm highlighting what we may or may not know is all I'm saying. Is that there are some things we know, and that there's some things that aren't necessarily crime, but it may have been a police officer who responded to it.
That is correct.
And so I even with your own numbers, I'm still not necessarily saying that. Well, what are we trying to accomplish by putting a lock, or what is it that we're trying to accomplish? I'm not clear on that, and that's really maybe a question for some of the folks from Rivertown who have made public comments, not necessarily you.
And again, I will just add that even with a gate or a lock, that does not mean that we are going to reduce this to zero, or that it will be reduced to zero.
Okay. Councilwoman Wilson?
Yeah, this next question, Chief, don't go too far. So this next question, either Chief, if you can answer, or City Manager, or even Mr. Beckholt, if you have an answer to this. So what I'm hearing, and actually Ms. Monahan brought a really good point up, this is the only option that's being presented. And I mean, I really want to look to you and also our church and the Rivertown people. Have we got together and looked at different options? Because it seems like people are frustrated. Well, let's just throw a gate up. And it doesn't sound like the gate may or may not be the solution to it. I mean, what are your recommendations, hearing from both the church and the Rivertown people, as to possible solutions to the perception of crime or of what's going on in this particular parking lot?
Yeah. You know, at this time, I don't really have one. The issues in this parking lot are not unique to this parking lot. We have a number of parking lots throughout the city, and some of the issues that they experience here are ones that we experience throughout the entire city. And so I don't necessarily have a solution as I stand here today.
Because even to me, a couple of people who are for the parking lot didn't seem like, well, this is the only option being offered to me. It just seems like we need to look into this, I mean, see what the real problem is in that particular parking lot, and what are other options we can look into. Does this mean, you know, the business watch? Does it mean another form of security down there? Does it mean, you know, maybe we need to put a better lighting in that parking lot? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there.
Sure.
And it just seems like this gate option has just been thrown out there, and everybody's like, let's run to the gate, because it seems like this is the perfect solution, when it may or may not be a solution. Because it sounds like even if somebody who was going to do something wrong could step over that gate, because I've seen the gate at James Donlin. I've stepped over it to go jogging, you know, at the reservoir. It takes me all of 2 seconds to get over a gate. If somebody's going to do something wrong, they'll step over a gate. I'm just wanting to put it out there that maybe we need to look into, you know, maybe we need to come together and break bread and figure out, you know, what other options are for this particular lot.
And there is a meeting scheduled. I believe it was mentioned earlier by Mr. Goodson that we are meeting with the downtown merchants. The one thing the gate will get rid of is vehicular traffic back there. That's one thing we can all say for sure, is it'll stop vehicular traffic. Whether it'll stop anything else back there, that is unknown at this time.
Councilman Orgachuk?
Well, to that, I want to say that I don't know that that's going to stop it either, because I've seen them cut the gates. So I've seen them out at James Donlin. They've cut the gate open, and it's still open. So I don't know that that would be an answer either. So I've been torn over this one. I read it and read it and read it and went back and forth. And then before I came to council, I came down early just to go in the parking lot. Been here a long time, so I've been in that parking lot several times. And I drove back there, and there was probably somebody doing something they shouldn't have been doing, because as soon as I pulled in, guess what they did? They left. So that's what happens when a police officer pulls back there, or you or I or somebody else pulls back there. They leave. They don't want to be obvious about what they're doing, so they do leave the parking lot. I have a concern for the officers, because if they get out, somebody got a car back there and they're stuck and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, and a police officer opens a gate, there's no protection for that officer. That car could hit that officer. I mean, they could just run through it. I mean, it's far-fetched, but it happens all the time. I'm concerned about the church group. I mean, if you're there in the evenings, they're locked in. So if you're there past their 7 o'clock in the evening, I would assume that you are doing church work. They're locked in. So then you got to go back out and open the gate. I wrote down trial period. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. But then after I started thinking about it, I don't know that that's the answer. I do appreciate the downtown merchants, and I support you 110%. It's just I don't know that this is the true answer. I think, as Councilmember Wilson just said, I think that we need to vet this out a little bit more and need to come together to find out. I wrote down VIPs, maybe when the El Campanel's being used, maybe we can ask some of the VIPs to go down there and be in the area. I mean, I know we're low staffed, I get it, but maybe there's a reserve left that can help, or a VIP that can help. I just don't see that this is the viable solution. I'm just having a hard time with. I want to support you and I want to do what I can for you, but this one I don't think it's the right thing, especially when you're locking a group in. So to me, you're giving a homeless camp to them in that back area because you've got the gate up. Thank goodness that we do have the group that can go out there and help these homeless people. That's kind of my direction. I appreciate it. I apologize.
Councilmember Tiscarino.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to make clear that please don't misunderstand. My primary concern wasn't just for the police safety. I mean, it's for the community as well. I just had questions in regards to how you be able to do your job and do it well without any obstacles. And so the safety of the community, safety of our business owners is very important to me. But with that said, we've heard the term perception many times tonight. And throughout my tenure as a city council member, that has really irked me. Perception compared to actual has hurt the city. When people talk about the city all the time, they're perceiving that this is a high crime area. They're perceiving that nobody wants to come to Antioch because it's going anywhere. And that really irks me. So to enhance that, in my opinion, to close up an area, and I'm picturing, a vacated ghost town little area for a certain amount of time, and it's gated. Nobody would want to come out here because it's perceived as a high crime area, and that really irks me because we are a thriving community. The businesses in the downtown area, the river town, are starting to make this place something that people want to come to, and I'm really proud of that. I just don't want to see that perception of closing this prison kind of enclosure because people have fear that they don't want to come to the city because they have some kind of fear that they're closing. They even have to close up parking lots because it's not a safe city. That kind of irks me. So I do agree that Council Member Wilson did have some great ideas. And I think what we need to do is have that discussion with the community, with the businesses, and how do we make the entire downtown area a safer community by lightening up all the parking lots, whatever the case. We have to spend some money anyway. There's going to be a cost to close the gate. We can better utilize that money to make that parking lot a lot safer. Light it up, whatever cameras, whatever the case may be. And make a perception that it's a very viable, safe place to be at night so people can enjoy. So that's my concern. So I do agree that the concerns of the business owners out there is credible, it's true. I'm tired of hearing that Antioch is perceived to be a high crime, low life city, and that really irks me. That really does. So that's my comment.
Councilman Wilson.
I just want to piggyback on something I had said earlier, and it's actually a question. So, Chief, I don't know if you can answer this question, or maybe the city manager. What would be the cost into looking into lighting and cameras, and maybe on certain times when the theater is in effect, or when the church is there, possibly looking at some type of security, not security there 24/7, but maybe on times when we have high traffic at nighttime. Do we know what that cost would be? It's probably going to be a little bit more than the gate, but what would that be? Because that might be an investment we want to make sure our merchants feel safe and our faith-based community feels safe. That we don't want to do something for one group and then another group feel alienated. I just want to see where we can come to common ground, but want to know if we can look into some of those particular options for down there, for that particular parking lot.
We'd have to come back with answers to those questions. I don't have those lighting, cameras, security, all of those right now.
Well, if we can look at those as options, I'm particularly interested in maybe thinking a little more globally for downtown as it relates to monitoring our parking lots. I certainly wouldn't want our police department monitoring parking lots, but I would be open to the idea of having a private security company monitoring our parking lots, all of them in downtown, throughout maybe some of the evening hours, so that they're chasing away people who shouldn't be there. And I know that's not always the best option because we have a police department, but I'm not interested in seeing the police department monitor parking lots. So that's something I would be open to and would like to see a price tag too. And I know we've done that in the past, so I know there's a model we can follow. Councilwoman Ogerchuk?
I would like to see if we could table this, and I don't know when the date is that the meeting's supposed to be, but maybe it could come back sometime after, continue it till after that date and see if there's not some other viable solutions that we could use, maybe vet this out a little longer.
That works for me as long as part of these discussions include some of the recommendations that we've talked about up here. I think
So is the point of information, do we have to vote to table? Is that a motion we have to make to table it?
I think since this is really
it's just a discussion item,
you've given direction to the city manager, or it sounds like you've given direction to the city manager, so I don't think there needs to be a formal vote.
Right.
If that's your pleasure.
And so I guess what we're saying is basically we would like to see more options, and we'd like to see the group come together and see what type of feedback they've come up with. Okay. Seeing no other discussion on this item, is that it? Did you have anything, Ron?
No, that'd be fine. Well, I was just trying to find the date. I don't see it off the right here, but we are going to be meeting with the downtown group. I think it's towards the 28th. Okay, so we're going to be meeting with the downtown group on the 28th to discuss, well, I don't know if it's specifically this issue, but other issues downtown, so we can include that in the discussion and broaden the folks who might be invited to that. So we make sure that we make it a more global discussion on the overall downtown.
Right. Okay. So it's our last item. Any other public comment?
I've received no requests for public comment.
No public comment. Staff communications?
Just that Councilmember Ogerchuk and I will be at the League of California Cities annual conference tomorrow through Friday. I'll actually be back on Friday. And then also, as was mentioned earlier, we have the Delta Blues Festival this Saturday, and also the Coastal Cleanup this Saturday, and the Kayak River Cleanup on Friday, for anybody who would like to participate in that. And the senior event on Saturday.
Oh, the senior barbecue. And make sure you go to that, everybody. 12 to 5. Get your, huh? Come watch Monica run. Council communications and future agenda items.
Nothing to add at this time.
I don't know, really nothing. I just want to congratulate the 4 police officers and their promotions. It was a great ceremony yesterday, and good job, Chief, for doing so. I know the names, but I know I'm going to mess them up. I was trying to dig them out right now, but I don't have time to do that. But they know who they are. You know who they are. So I just want to congratulate them.
Councilwoman Ogerchuk?
So I have a couple of them. I'm seeing more and more of these closed bins popping up throughout the town. And I mean, they're not just coming in ones, they're coming in 2s and 3s. And I see a ton of garbage, not just at those bins, but like right around the box, around the block from them. So you can see people have taken clothes out and they've kind of gone through them and dumped them. So I know this has been brought up before about an ordinance regarding these closed bins. So they were going away for a while, but now they're coming back 10 times worse. So I'd like to see us working on that, an ordinance on that. And then the other thing is, it's come to my attention, I didn't know this had changed, that on garage sales, you can have more than 2 per year. It's always been within the city, you could only hold 2 per year. I am seeing trucks coming in, and they've got trailers, and in the back of them, I don't know where they're getting their stuff, but they're coming in and they're blocking streets. One's being done every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off of Country Hills, and they open up this trailer, they unload everything. So I want to go back to looking at that ordinance on garage sales. They're running it as a business, so I believe we need to get the permitting process back in order that we used to have, and make sure we have an ordinance on the garage sales. Those are my 2. Thank you.
Seeing nothing else, we stand adjourned.